Ever wondered how I make my pins and magnets out of wood? Well, I'm going to show you how I do it from start to finish, so you'll want to grab your crafty things and join me on my journey. Hello and welcome everybody to my very first tutorial, and today I'm dedicating it to making wooden pins and magnets. That's right, you've seen my magnets before, you may have seen my pins, and now I'm going to show you how I do it. So come along for the adventure, and do know, this is a disclaimer, you do need a laser cutter. If you do not have a laser cutter, you won't be able to do this project, so keep that in mind. All right, guys, I will give my recommendations of all the materials that I use, as well as the laser that I use. Stay tuned, let's go. So before I get to the actual design, I like to inspire myself by going outside. I'll go for a hike, I'll go for a paddleboarding session, anything. And I'll probably bring the first supply, my sketchbook and pencil. Also, I might also bring my iPad. So the program that I use to make the design is in Procreate. You can use anything really. I use also Photoshop, Illustrator, etc., etc. Anything that you can do to make a drawing is a-okay. Obviously, the most important thing, aside from the drawing, is actually having wood. You can't make wooden pins without this essential component. I like to use these plywood pieces that I usually get on Amazon, and all of the items I will have links so you can get them or look at them and be inspired. This is a very thin piece of plywood. It's like a crafts wood. It's balsa. It's very nice to cut into. It is really versatile, and I can get a lot of it for a really great price. So that's the main reason why I use that wood, but it also comes in different stains and styles, you name it. So in this project, I'm going to show you how I actually sketch out my design to make into a magnet or a pin. Here we have a few slugs that I have drawn out. I was watercoloring. I was at the lake the other day and wanted to watercolor some slugs because I guess that is one of my favorite things to do. So I sketched these and painted them in, and now I want to use the concepts of these two to make into my wooden pieces. So what I do is that I take a photo of my artwork and I move it over to my Procreate. For these particular magnets, I really want something bold that is easy to see and captures attention. But to not bore you completely, I will continue in my time-lapse video. This step is absolutely not necessary, but it actually helps if you want to use wording in your image. And it is such a great way to make it digitized, which means that I will be keeping this image in vector format, which means also that you can expand, contract, make it any way, and it will never lose its look and sharp. So if I wanted to make a 10-foot by 10-foot slug to hang in front of my house, I can do so, and the lines will be beautifully crisp. Now that I have the file how I want it, I will be exporting it as a PNG and importing it into my laser cutting program called Lightburn. This is my preferred laser cutting software, and honestly, really, it's the only one I've used, so that's probably why I like it. Okay, so what I do is I will take my image, I will right-click, and I'm going to trace the image. So this is what it's going to look like to the machine. In this instance, I just want to show you the basics of what I do to create a magnet and pin. I have my image, it is traced, and what I want to do is I want to put an outline all around the image so that it has a border. So if I were to select this, take off actual artwork, which technically I do not need anymore, I can just erase that, I am left with this. Right now, over here, it is set to fill. So when I look at it as if I was going to cut it, that is what it will look like when it is cut. I want it to have a border. I will select my whole image and I will go over here to this little O, the offset shapes. I will click that. I will click on how big of a border I want around it, and that actually looks really good. And I do this because this is going to be my cut line. So in order to cut out the shape, I need to have a cut line. Otherwise, it's just going to go on the wood and not cut anything. It'll just fill in the shapes and I'll have a piece of wood with just a filled in shape. We're going to make this a cut layer. To do that, we select the border that we just created. We need to make a new layer. Right now it is at fill. Everything is at fill, so we need to choose a different color to make a new layer. Actually, let's choose red. Yeah, that's a better cutting color. And this will actually tell us that this layer is now ready for the actual cut, not the black, which is fill. Here's an example of what it looks like with just the cut line. And then if we select everything all together, we're going to see both the cut line and the fill line. And that is what's going to appear on your laser when you process it. Hey, these came out not bad. Let's take them out of there. Get a little close up. Yeah. Yeah, these are going to work really well. So glad that I changed. Look at the settings. Look at that difference. So much better. So less burnt. I'm excited. Yay! So one of the first things that I do before I start painting is that I start to sand the pieces because honestly, I can never get the right settings so that it doesn't kind of burn the edges. Anyway, so I'm using a medium to soft block of sandpaper, which works really well on the hand. And I just kind of run it against, and I don't want to take out the details. I just want to take out kind of like the burn. I'm sure I could be saving time if I fiddled more with the actual numbers on the laser cutter, but here we are. Then I use another brush to kind of wipe off all the stuff that would be in the crevices. So you can tell there's a difference. This is a much nicer piece of wood to paint than this one that is way too dark. As far as painting materials go, I love this part. So I use pretty much any watercolor set that you can find. It doesn't have to be expensive or anything like that, just something to put color on the wood. And then I also love to use these kind of pearly paints. They give like a nice sheen and I really like it. My mom got me these probably on Amazon. I'll put the link down below. I wanted to show you another paint I use, which is Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. I may be butchering the name, but this stuff is really, really good. Even if I, because I usually use it for the stems, or let's say I have my Amanita mushrooms, I like to use a really bright white because the white that usually comes with the watercolor set is pretty weak. But this is really great stuff. And it goes a really long way. I've had this for a very long time. For this particular mushroom, I really enjoy putting on a purple and blue combination with white stalks. And then I also put in some dark color right between to show that there's a separation. So I'll take my blue, any blue. I kind of like the brighter blues for this particular project because after it's dried, I'm going to be using my pearl sheen paint on top. So this is kind of a base layer. And you don't have to be delicate about it. I just basically want to do a little quick wash so that there's some background. And then I'll add the purple. I love these two colors combined. But I also love purple. So anything that has purple is really awesome in my book. Then I'll take some of the white. I'm going to make sure that my brush is nice and clean. Don't want to get color in my my beautiful white. And then I'll just kind of do the stalks. If you see that there's too much color coming off, just tap your brush on the paper towel and then you can kind of soak some of the pigment off. Sometimes it gets in too much into the cracks, and if you use this as a little sponge, that works really well. I think I put too much water in the white paint. Yeah, I definitely did. Oops. That's all right. We'll just do the whole dab on your paper towel thing. It'll soak up the excess that got into the little spots in here. I also like to give a little bit of shading on the tops here. And this one back there. I'm going to drag it down so it's not just pure white. Something else to mention is that I use a black acrylic marker. You can use you can use a Sharpie too. It doesn't really matter. I just want to take this to darken this little spot here. There you go. So it shows some separation. All right, let's put on some sheen or some sparkle or whatever you'd like to call it. I'm going to be using this blue and this purple. If you have this palette, that's what I'm using. So let's move that aside and put the mushrooms front and center. I'm going to let my paint really get a nice amount of blue on there. And this blue really stands out once I've put it on. And I'm still glad I put the base color under it. And then we're going to get some purple. I forgot to wake up these paints. Wake up. All right, then put some of the purple under there. And kind of blend it up. So it might be a little hard to see right now, but there is some sheen on there. And I usually only do it to the mushroom tops for this project. And there we go. That one's ready. Now I'll just keep painting the rest. And then I'll move on to the UV resin part. All right, time to put some resin on our pieces. I use UV resin, which is really great. It comes in small quantities. I don't have this big vat of UV that I need to use immediately. And see, here's a little bottle. Usually it comes in sets of 2 or 3, which is great because it lasts a while. And also it doesn't yellow, it's clear. It's a really good thing to have if you want to do small projects. You're going to need a UV lamp. And here's a small one that I used to use in the beginning. It works. It's fine if you don't have a lot of things to do and don't want to invest in a bigger UV lamp. It works actually pretty well. So you can do that. Or if you have a lot of things that you want to harden, then I would go with a bigger UV lamp like this one. You can even do your nails after you're done with your magnets and pins. What I like about this one is that it has 3 timer settings. Usually what I do is the 99 seconds followed by the 60 seconds, and that seems to really work for my projects and really seal the wood really, really well. So with that said, let's go do that. While I was recording this video, I actually got an order, yay, for a slug pin. So I went ahead and painted a whole bunch of them since I had to do that for my 2 events coming up. And I got it all nice and painted and ready for some UV application. So the first thing that I do is I put on a really thin layer of resin. I have a designated brush, which is my resin brush. It's just an old brush that will only be used for resin. Basically, all I do is slather that on. Don't want it to be too thick of a layer. What I found is that if I don't do this, I get a whole bunch of bubbles, unwanted bubbles, if you will, that seep through the wood, air escaping as it heats the resin. All right. Probably can't see this, but it's a very thin layer. All it is a coating. And then I will put it in for 99 seconds into the UV lamp. Then I'm going to put it in for another 60 seconds to completely harden, and I'll be right back. I just wanted to show you that if there happens to be bubbles in the second round of resin coating, there's a trick that I learned. You can use a lighter to eliminate those bubbles. Just want to make sure I got all the edges. And it's pretty simple. Personally, I like the lighter that bends, but I don't have that one right now. So yeah, let's light it up. Just gonna lightly put it on top. That will take care of any random bubbles that may have occurred while you put the resin on. And again, here's the final piece with the second coat of resin, ready to have a pin put on the back. As for the pins, I got this really cool little set of butterfly pins. So it has your butterfly backing and your pin. Don't put these on people's chairs though, guys. Let's be nice. And then for the magnets, I use these super strong magnets. Like, they're seriously super strong. I use the thinner version. Don't think I was using the thicker version because I didn't know that the thinner version existed. So here it is. Watch this. Woo! Like I said, whoa, super strong. For the pin that the gentleman just purchased, I will put the pin backing on it, and I'll show you kind of my trick of doing it. First, I'll put a wee little dot of resin there, and then I'll try to coat this without too much bothering of the resin. Sometimes it can get tricky. So what I like to do basically is to have the resin make a little dome around the actual pin so that it stays nice and locked in there. Here it is, the final pin, and there is the attachment on there. So see how it leaves a little dome? It's nice and enclosed. And then all you got to do is put the little butterfly clip on, and you're good to go. You got yourself a little wooden pin. Let's do some magnets now. For the magnets, I don't typically use UV resin. I go with the old trusty hot glue gun, which honestly you really need to be careful with because I have burnt myself quite a few times with this thing. It really gets hot. PSA, be careful with your hot glue gun. Once your hot glue gun is hot, I lay out the magnets. I'm going to do 4. And you're probably wondering, why are they like that, Kat? Why do you put the magnets like that? Well, because these, again, are very strong. So they tend to want to stick to each other. And sometimes, they're hard to get apart. And with hot glue, you kind of have to be fast. So it's pretty simple. Just like the pins, put a little dollop hot glue. Don't burn yourself. And you just put that right on top, press it down. Make sure that you can't see it from the other side. I'm glad I chose this size. So yeah, I like to then push it down and keep it level. This dries pretty fast, so that's another thing I like about it. There's no lamp. Take off those silly hot glue strings. And there you have it. One of the things I like to do with my magnets is to put them on my wall. So I just found out that curved walls have metal in them. So this was an accident that I found. So let's turn you around. And since I do a lot of them at once, I like to just put them here so I can see how many I've done. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? I had this one up there too. That's so silly. Who knew? Who knew that there was metal? Now you do, if you didn't know. I hope you liked this video and learned a bunch. If you stayed here that long, thank you. And I wanted to show you how the slug magnets ended up looking like. I love them, actually. I really love them. I can't wait to make some more. And I hope that this inspired you to make some magnets and pins and get your creativity going. Do you think I should make some to sell so you could paint them yourselves? Let me know in the comments, all right? And if you have any other suggestions, any other comments, or just want to say hi, drop me a comment below, and I will see you next time for another tutorial.